Okay, so hi Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good too. Are you excited for this interview?
Very excited. Very excited
I'm
to be your
very
first
excited.
guest.
Yes, I'm very excited about that as well. Okay, so let's start from something, broad and stuff like that. Just a few words. How do you feel about Denmark in general?
Yeah, well, Denmark is, I think, a very free country. We have a lot of accessibility, both in nature, but also in our society and in the structure of our country and society as well. So in general, I think it's very easy to move from place to place, both physically and mentally. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. When we went to your grandma's, that was the case. I mean, Denmark is pretty small. Hi, my name is Lena. I'm 18 years old, and you're watching Outside of the Circle. Let me tell you a little bit about this project of mine. I am an international student, I study far away from home, and there, on college campus, I met lots of new incredible people from all over the globe. I realized that even though we're all so different, we're similar in a way, and all of those people have incredible stories to share with the world. Sometimes people tend to draw comfort in circles around themselves and never go beyond them. So today, I invite you to hear the actual stories and go beyond your comfort circle. Welcome to Outside of the Circle, and feel free to escape yours. Okay, so when I first came to Denmark to visit you this summer, I was really amazed at how many flags you guys have there. It seems as if like every Dane has a who lives in a house or has a backyard, they do have a flag pole or something, and they tend to put this flag on. So can you tell a bit more about this tradition because it's pretty interesting?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've never really noticed before being an international student because for us it's just the custom or the norm. But I think it's something to do with pride and not necessarily nationality or like something very patriotic. But at the same time, it does give us a feeling of belonging and a sense of, yeah, being in this community or nationality. And I think because it's said to be the first ever flag in the world, and it fell down from the sky in Estonia during a war, I
Oh,
think. And then
okay.
I think the history is that we were about to lose the war, and then somebody prayed to God or something, and the flag fell down from the sky, and then we won. So I think there's also some kind of pride in the flag, and then we just use it
Okay.
for every celebration. So whenever it's someone's birthday, if someone is graduating, even something smaller, we just put it up. So
Okay.
it's
And what if
everywhere.
I'm a citizen who lives in a flat, not in in a house with a backyard, and what am I supposed to do then? How do I put a flag on my birthday if I
Then
don't have one?
you just have smaller flags. Like we have these small flags for cakes or just to put in plants, and yeah, you have the kind of like banners with a lot of flags, so you
Right.
can get the flags in every form and shape. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay. And how do I feel about that? I mean, it's not that common in other countries. It's only like I've seen it only in Denmark, probably somewhere else as well, but it's just so interesting to how does it make you feel every time when you wake up in the morning for your birthday and there are flags and stuff like that? Does it make you feel more Danish?
I think, I mean, both and I think it's just because it's tradition, and we like our flag a lot. I think,
Right.
but not. I mean, we don't really think about it that much. It's only when we compare ourselves to other nations where they don't really use the flag as much as we do.
Right.
It's because I think for some other countries it's more a symbol of like strong nationalism or some political kind of message, but for us it's just an everyday situation
Yeah, it's
almost.
just
So
there.
so yeah, it's just something nice to do.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so let's move on to something connected more to people, and stuff like that. What are some facts that I've read on the internet? So basically, as of 2023, Denmark is ranked as the second happiest country in the world, and you guys are pretty solid in this position. Like you've been there for a few years in a row. You're kind of competing with Norway. So what do you think of that? Like, why is it so?
I think one of the very basic or maybe major reasons actually is that we have this kind of security net. So for everyone, you know that whatever happens to you, if you get ill, if you lose your job, if you can't really do the education that you started or something, you will always have another opportunity, you will always be able to get help. And I think that's just something that we don't really think about, the worst that could happen, because we know that even if the worst thing happened, we will always be able to get help or move on. Maybe not in the direction we thought of initially, but at the same time, we have this, yeah, there will always be something to do, and somewhere to be and get help. So I mean, we kind of, sometimes we say that people, if they're homeless, they choose to be homeless because you can always find somewhere to live. So yeah, it's, I mean, it's just how it is with everything in our kind of system, and society. Yeah.
No, but yeah, that's really good to have this government support and stuff like that. But what about like people,
Yeah.
just from person's perspective? Do you think, like talking to other students in college and stuff like that, do you think you are more optimistic, just like, the way you lived in Denmark and it made you be a bit like, above the others because you are more positive and stuff like that?
I mean, I definitely think that we have another approach to life and to kind of like our, educations and careers and, maybe not relationships, but yeah, we just have this more, I think, independence that makes us feel a bit more, I don't know how to put it actually, but I think, yeah, we do have some. Not that I'm saying that we're happier than a lot of people or better, but I just think we have this other approach to life, that we don't take life too serious. Sometimes we're even called the Italians of the Scandinavian people, because I think we're just a bit more loose and, having a good time, and everything is not supposed to be too serious and too like, demanding either. So I mean, we're hardworking people, but also we enjoy, taking time off and doing something that we like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that
But
definitely plays a big role in our happiness.
yeah, but I also
Yeah.
think, like as you said, you're hardworking. Apart from that, you're also like very kind of structured and productive in your own way. Because I mean, I guess your working hours are a bit like less, slightly less than in the like the other world and stuff like that. So I mean, you guys know how to manage your time and how to set priorities. I mean, is it truly so? What are the major priorities you would say for Danish people?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we start working at around 8, 9, and then we go, back home at 4, maybe even 3 or 2. I mean, Fridays people work half a day, and then it's almost weekend, so you better not work too much. So I think we just, when we work, we're productive, we're structured, we know what to do, and then we just have a lot of time to have fun and recharge, so that we don't, kind of drag the work out or just work too hard, and kind of tire ourselves. So I think, yeah, there is definitely a priority of this work-life balance, so that we don't burn out, but we have time to, yeah, to relax and do more fun stuff than work, and then we go back to work, and we're productive. We do what we do in those slightly few hours,
I
or
mean,
less
no,
hours
but
than
but
somebody
that's really
else.
nice. I mean, you can still keep up with the rest of the world, so that's why it's truly interesting how you found the key, to this Danish happiness, and how
Yeah.
you can be, yeah, you can work a bit less and still have time for the family, sports, and stuff like that. Earlier, you've mentioned something about like starting to work from a young age. Can you tell a bit more about that? How does this actually work? Do you need to apply for a job, or it's usually like relations that you go for something like that your parents offered you or something like that?
I think you can work from when you're 13 in Denmark, and I think because we value independency a lot, so a lot of people, when they're 13, they get a job, the first job. Of course, it's not something with a lot of responsibility from the beginning. You have to, work your way up there. But definitely, yeah, a lot of people, they weigh that, highly, and I think just parents, they also like that their children, they have this feeling of, earning your own money, being in charge of them, kind of structuring how you use, the money, and so that you're not, spending everything in one time.
Right.
Um, and yeah, I mean, getting a job depends a lot. Some people, they work in the supermarkets or in cafes or shops like that. Some people, they babysit or do some more informal work. And I think it just depends on what you want to do and what is available at the time. Myself, I've had both jobs where I applied, and had like an interview and then got the job, and also through some friends where, yeah, it was more informal and just, because we knew them. And so, yeah, but I think it teaches you a lot about independency and about being in charge of your own time and your own, resources and everything. So yeah, I think it's a nice thing to do.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And how do employees, right? Is it employer or employee? Correct me. Employer is the one
Employers,
who
yeah.
takes you for the job, right? So how do
Yeah.
employers treat you as like if you come, you're only 13, you have no experience at all. Do they really want to pay you something for that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of equality in the work market or like the workplace. Of course, when you're 13 or 14, I mean, being young, you're a bit less like a bit more inexperienced. And you have to take your time to kind of get the work done and being experienced, knowing the routine or the procedure at the workplace. But I think a lot of people or a lot of employers, they like to have young people because they're more they want to do it and they
Oh,
want
yeah.
to earn some money, so it's more kind of a fun thing for them, and also it's cheaper for them than to pay the adults for the above 18 years. So in that case, I mean, you never get judged if you have a job from 13, and of course it depends on where you work as well, and if there are lots of responsibilities, maybe then you have to be a bit older. But at the same time, I mean, people they trust each other and they trust the person to do the job correctly, or like with passion and understanding. Yeah. So I started to babysit two small children when I was 14, I think, and they were a few months and 2 years old. And I mean, coming from another place, that might seem a bit crazy. That I mean, I was a child myself, and then I had to, babysit two other children. But I think just because we are, I mean, most young people, they are independent and they know how to do things well. And yeah, so I think it just trust is a key word here as well. I started babysitting, yeah, when I was 14. Then I worked in a bakery for a few months, but then I was offered to be in kind of like a sushi takeaway place. So yeah, I worked two part-time jobs while I was in school for 2 years, I think. Yeah.
Do you think like mainly youth works in this kind of like, sector or something, or are they offered something like, more highly paid? You can be, I don't know, a manager or something, or you cannot be.
I think for when you're under 18, you're definitely more I mean, most people, they have jobs in like smaller shops or yeah, restaurants, or I mean something that's not very like based on responsibility, because I mean people are still children, so it's more sitting behind the cashier, or doing some kind of cleaning job or something with not a lot of like risks or anything. So both for your own safety, but also for I mean, the company, they're not interested in, I think, in not 12, but like 15-year-old being the manager or something. But yeah, I think it's just a lot of times it's not so much about the job that you're doing, because I think a lot of under 18 jobs, they're not that fun to do. I mean, it's kind of routine and more something with cleaning or something. But I think it's just for the experience and for getting out there on the job market, so that you have something to put on your CV.
Well,
Yeah.
and if we're talking about work, I remember in one of our conversations, and maybe even here, you've mentioned that there is no hierarchy at a workplace. I mean, you kind of touched upon the trust and respect even for younger children, like younger 13-year-old children. So yeah, what would you say about that? Is like, what is it?
I mean, the no hierarchy thing is definitely something that we, I think, value a lot as well. Sometimes I think we take it for granted because it's just how it is. But I mean, I could come to my boss and say almost whatever. I could call him, her by the first name. I mean, we could even take a cup of coffee together outside of work. So it's not so much that you have this kind of hierarchy where you have to work your way up. Of course, you have to work your way up, but it's not that you can't speak to the people who are above you. And I think, yeah, the trust thing comes into play here as well, because I mean, we trust each other to do the job that we're told to do. But at the same time, we also, I mean, I think it's just a nice structure that we have in our workplaces. So, I mean, there are not a lot of, kind of hierarchy systems where you have to almost be the servant of the boss or something. It's, yeah, you do your tasks and you're expected to do them as good as you can. And also, I mean, yeah, do what you're told to do. But yeah, it's just how it is. I've never really
Yeah.
thought about it before. Being an international and hearing about other cultures, work cultures, but yeah, it's a nice system.
Let's talk about minor disadvantage. Apart from all of the good things that we just mentioned, Denmark is also considered one of the most expensive countries in Europe. And what would you say about that?
I think both end. I mean, after the inflation, it's definitely become more pricey and expensive to be here. And also, yeah, we do pay a lot of taxes. About half of our salary is goes to taxes. So it's not like it's. I mean, yeah, it is expensive to live here. Our salaries, of course, match the prices of everyday life. But if you live in Aarhus or Copenhagen, the two largest cities, it's definitely. I mean, you can tell that the prices are very high. So I think, I mean, it doesn't really affect us that much. I think, of course, people they complain about, oh, the pasta is so expensive or the milk is, So it's not. I mean, but it's not something that we truly have a big problem with. During the inflation and during COVID, where everything was a bit unstable and everything, we had the government. They had some help packages where you could like kind of apply for getting more money if you were maybe if you didn't have a job or if you were an elderly or something like that. So even if it becomes a problem for you, you will always be able to get help, either from the government or from like the society you live in. So it is pricey, but that's just how it is. I think we just, I mean, yeah, come to terms with that because we can't really change it.
I want you to tell us about your education. How would you say, like, is it chill or is it like, how do people treat school in general? I mean, students, from students' perspective.
I think school is something very different from a lot of countries. And being an international student in Asia as well, I've really come to see our educational system in like a different way because I think some people they might think that especially our primary school is very chill and very, I mean, not so hard. A lot of other people they know a lot more facts or like some more book knowledge, while I think we have a lot of like a big emphasis on the individual person and that you know how to problem solve, not necessarily know what is in the textbook and that you can kind of recite it word for word, but that you know how to be a good person as well. So there's a lot of emphasis, yeah, on the social aspect of education as well. And in schools, it's, I mean, you always, the teacher expects you to kind of be critical about what they're telling you, what they're teaching you. And even if you have a question, you ask. And there are no kind of, I mean, of course, there are limits to what you can ask, but you can be critical and you can ask the teacher, but why is it like this? And why do you tell me this? And what, I mean, there's no such thing as you just accept what the teacher says and that's it. So I've had a lot of arguments with my teachers, and that's just how it is here. And I think that's what they expect of you as well, because that's how they teach us here. So yeah, definitely. I mean, primary school is not the hardest. It can be chill sometimes. There's also a lot of like emphasis on playing with the knowledge. So in the smaller classes, you would often go out into the school yard, and then the teacher had set up some kind of game where, of course, there was some kind of teaching element, or you had to learn something from it, but at the same time, you play the knowledge in your head, inside your head. Our education, it's a lot about learning, not necessarily what is in the curriculum, but I mean, of course, you have to do that, but also learning about everything else around it. Yeah.
Right. And how many years do you study in school? Like in general, the whole process?
So yeah, 10 years in primary school, then 3 years in high school, and then you take a bachelor's 3 years, master's 2 years, PhD if you, I mean, want to do that.
Right.
But yeah, you have to do the 10 years of primary school, and then high school is optional. But if you don't choose that, you have to do some kind of work so that you don't just end up sitting there doing nothing. So there's kind of a structure or something to kind of activate or motivate you to do something at least.
Like, how about when you're in higher school? Is it like more pressure there, or is it still kind of not that hard?
I think in my high school, the 1 year I went there before coming to Hong Kong, I had the impression that there are kind of two groups of students. Either the people who, I mean, maybe don't really know what they do and they just follow the crowd, because most people they go to high school and And there are even some students who lack so much motivation that they have this kind of saying that everything above 0.2, which is the passing grade, is a waste of work. So I mean, that's maybe the downside of being too relaxed in school. And then we also have a lot of, or some people who are striving for the best all the time, which is also like mentally just hard to be the kind of perfectionist. But of course there is a balance, and there are lots of people who are in between. But I think in high school as well, people are generally curious about the knowledge. And in high school you choose kind of a direction. So I had biotechnology, so you have to have subjects like Danish history, some kind of basic subjects, and everybody takes them. But then I chose to have math and biotechnology on a higher level. And some people they choose music and arts, or kind of social science or something. So it's more directed to what you want to do with your life, instead of you just have to do all the subjects. Yeah.
Okay. And tell us a bit more about famous Danish gap years, which is not a common thing.
I think gap years, it's just kind of a part of your educational path. I think you have to actively take the choice of not doing a gap year, because otherwise it's just kind of prescribed for you already. And everybody knows that after high school, then freedom is here, and you can take as many gap years as you want. And I think it varies a lot. Some people they take 1 year, some people they take 7 years, maybe even more. And I think for me at least there is kind of a balance as well, so that you don't just take, I don't know, 10 years of gap year and then kind of having to push yourself into education as well. But I think some people outside of Denmark, or in cultures where gap years are not very common, they might think that we just lie on the couch doing nothing for a year or two. But I think gap years, most people in Denmark, they're very active. They work, they travel, they do some volunteer work, they do some courses. I mean, it's kind of a pause between high school and uni, where you can, I think, investigate your interests and see what you really want to study. Because I think a lot of people, when they're done with high school, they don't know what they want to do with the rest of their lives. They have no idea what they want to do in uni. So it's a time to have a break and see what you actually want to do with your life, and get some experience while working and traveling. And I think it also, is connected a bit to the kind of relaxed approach we have to education. It's not so like hard and you have to just finish everything in one go. It's more, we take one step at a time, and then we see where it brings us.
So apart from you've mentioned those people who go for a gap year like for 7 years, and do they actually go back to uni after that, or do they go straight to work?
First of all, I think 7+ gap years is a bit extreme. Not extreme, but it's in rare cases that people actually do take that many gap years. I think the norm is more 1, 2, 3 gap years probably. And then people, I think at some point they kind of get tired of having to schedule everything for themselves. They have to get up every morning and tell themselves to do this or that. While being in university or in some kind of workplace, there's this schedule for you, and you wake up and then you know what to do. So I think after a few years where you've maybe had some fun, traveled, maybe even worked a bit, getting some experience, I think people, they want to go back to university, because in most cases a university degree is valuable, and it is what work or employers are looking for. But also I think, maybe some people, they just don't really want to go to university, and that's okay as well, because it's not for everybody. So I think some people, if they take 7+ gap years, they might have gained so much experience that they are able to just go straight to the work market. Probably they can't be engineers or take a role in those kind of works, but they will have so much experience in some other kind of field that they don't really need the university degree. I had a high school teacher who took 7 gap years, I think, where she did some different work and kind of experience with what she wanted to do, and then she took 5 years of university after, and then became high school teacher. So it's it's very different what people do, and also it varies a lot with what people do in their gap years. Some people, they just work 2 years straight, and they have enough money to kind of live good while they're in university, or live well. And some people, they just travel the world. Some people, I mean, it's, yeah, it varies a lot also what they
Yeah.
want to do after
Like,
gap years.
and nobody judges you for that as well. That's really
Yeah.
cool that there is no, like, uni religion. If you didn't go to uni, you are nothing. I mean, you don't do that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, if they don't take a gap year, then people are becoming a bit suspicious about why didn't you do that? I mean, I know one who took, he didn't take any gap years, so he just went straight from primary to high school to university, 5 years of university. And I mean, people, of course, he's a nice guy and everything, but people were kind of, asking him, but why didn't you take a gap year? Because it's just, that's just how it is. It's just the norm.
So, throughout the whole conversation, you've mentioned a lot about mutual respect and trust, and even like the fact that people are taken to like responsible jobs from 13 years old. So, it's like it tells a lot about Danish nation. So, how would you maybe more in depth describe a true Dane?
I think one thing that is very characteristic about Danish people is our humor or our irony, sarcasm. And I think for some people, if they come from outside and they don't really understand, it can seem a bit dark and harsh and kind of judgmental sometimes when we say something, but it's just because it's sarcasm. And I mean, so many times you use sarcasm instead of the true words, so you say the opposite. I mean, if someone asks us, "Isn't this a nice shirt?" then they would say, I don't know," but it means that yes, it is. So I think it's something that we're taught from, yeah, just with our language. I mean, there's actually liking something in Danish. I've never thought about that, but yeah, it just occurred to me that the word liking in Danish actually translates to suffer. So I like cake would be I suffer cake. So already
Well,
there you have this kind of sarcasm, very dark humor, irony thing. And it's not something we think about because it's just the word for liking. But yeah, thinking about it in depth and the translation to English, it's a bit, yeah. I mean, it tells us a lot about how irony is just such a big part of our everyday life. And I mean, you can make fun about anything and about everyone, even your boss, your teacher, your professor. If you make a sarcastic comment, they wouldn't. I mean, they wouldn't mind. They wouldn't blink. They would just think, well, yeah, that's just a part of speaking. So I think it's you have to get used to it. I think, especially if you come from outside and enter the Danish society, you have to kind of crack the code of when it's sarcasm and when it's not. But it's just, yeah, it's a way of both communicating, but also I think connecting with people because it's integrated in our language. And so when you use sarcasm, it's most often not to mock someone or to make fun of someone, but actually to tell that I understand you and I might be in the same situation as you, or I've been there and I know what you're going through or what you're feeling right now. So it's more a thing of communicating your understanding of the other person or the other person's situation rather than it's to mock someone, because yeah, that we wouldn't really do that.
yeah. So
It's yeah.
if you're in Denmark, they're not mocking you. They're just trying to make friends, right?
Yeah, it might seem a bit harsh when you hear it first, and even in English we sometimes try to transfer the sarcasm, and then it's I think a lot of times it's not so good, but yeah, that's just how we are.
But I mean, people, they then should be, like kind of there it shouldn't be that much of a bullying probably, like, in society and maybe even in school, because people, they're used to being kind of mocked in a good way, not like in a sarcastic way, I mean.
I think, yeah, of course there is bullying, and I think unfortunately it's seen more than we would like to admit, or at least more than we would want, because of course, yeah, it's not something you would wish for anyone. But I think just because we're taught to be very respectful of each other from a very young age, you know that what is morally right and wrong, and how to respect the individual that's standing in front of you, and not to make fun of them because you know that it might happen to you and you wouldn't want that to happen, or just treat everybody with respect and treat them how you want to be treated yourself. And I think that's a very big part of who we are. Also, we have this law, which is not like a law, but just something in the society, which is called the Janteloven, the law of gender, and it says that you shouldn't think that you're better than anyone. You shouldn't think that you're good at anything. So I think, I mean, it sounds a bit harsh, but I think it just teaches us about being humble and being a bit modest. And we don't really like to brag about ourselves. I mean, we're not someone who just goes out there and telling everybody how good I am and how well I did this. And, you know, it's very much, yeah, something to be a bit more, you know, quiet about. And I think that's also why sometimes we're not very good at complimenting each other, because we're just so, you know, modest with those things that we don't really, even though we want to make other people happy or actually tell them that what you did was really good, we don't really do that either, because it's just, I mean, it's just yeah, how we are, a bit more humble in our nature. And then yeah, the gender law of gender, which is just yeah, telling everybody that they shouldn't think too highly of themselves. So
No,
yeah, I think
that's
we know that, and we know how to treat people with respect.
that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Can you tell us the story that I've heard from your parents once upon a time when we were having dinner at your place about a breeding dog, I guess, because I think it pretty much tells what this whole thing is about.
About what?
Reading dog. Is it a reading
Oh, the
dog?
reading. Yeah, that's a very crazy story. Even for us Danes, it's a bit, you know, but yeah, Maune, my little brother, he has a school teacher who has a dog, and the dog is, I think it's a Labrador or some kind of, you know, just a very nice, quiet dog. And this dog is then trained to listen to the children who might find it a bit uncomfortable or problematic to read aloud for teachers or other students. So they would, because I mean, in primary school we have this kind of 20 minutes reading time every day where you read just for yourself.
Yeah.
But then it's also a lot about, you know, reading aloud for the class in class
Hmm.
time. And so if you might find that not too, um, I mean, if you, yeah, if you don't really want to read aloud, or even if you maybe have some troubles reading or something, then there's this dog that you can sit with in a room, and then it's trained so that it's just quiet. It doesn't say anything. It's just there, and then you read aloud for it as if to read aloud for someone. But I mean, the dog is not judgmental, because I mean, why would it be? So it's, I think it's a way for people to you know, be a bit more relaxed and comfortable reading aloud if they don't find it comfortable reading aloud for other people. So yeah, it's a special I mean, case of, you know, really treating the people with respect, and having this individual is not just a number in the system. It's really someone who has problems or has a problem with reading or doing some kind of schoolwork, and then you kind of, you know, meet their criteria or meet their way of doing things. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
I mean, I was truly
it's
yeah, I was truly impressed when I first heard it. So I was like, yeah, that actually this story truly shows like what the society is actually about. I mean, it's just the way you address the issues about, yeah, as you said, individualism and also mutual respect and stuff like that. It includes a lot of things. And about trust, when I was in Denmark, I was really impressed by the fact that you guys can hang out the clothes outside of the, like, you know, of the shop, and nobody will steal it or something, because there is like just respect, and you can just like go and take whatever you want and then go and buy it in the store, like you're that kind of respectful and law obeyed in a way.
I think about the clothes, I've never thought about that before you said it, because it's just, I mean, all the stores on the, like the main street, or even like just everywhere, even the supermarkets, they have some products outside just hanging on racks or in like a, yeah, some kind of box or something. And to be honest, I've never actually seen it in other places I've traveled, and I've never noticed it before you told me about it, or yeah, like commented or noticed. And I think it truly is something to do with the trust that we have in each other, and in the fact that we know that it's not right to steal. So of course we wouldn't. I mean, there are people who are criminals and people who steal and stuff like that, but most people, they know that it's wrong, so they wouldn't do it. And I think it's the same with, I mean, you can leave your baby in the pram outside a cafe while sitting there for half an hour with your friends, and you come out and your baby would still be there. I mean, nobody would touch it. Also, there are these things outside the supermarkets where you can put your dog in the leash while you're in shopping, and then when you come back, you just take your dog and walk home. So I mean, there are lots of things where we don't really think about that it might be unsafe, or that we might not find or encounter the thing after being somewhere else because we just left it there. But I think, yeah, trust is just something so fundamental in our society in every aspect. So yeah, it's definitely something we don't really think about, but that we do exercise every day, all the time.
From what you just said, it might seem that, yeah, you're so law-abiding and strict in the society because, I mean, yeah, you guys just trust each other that much that you have to obey those rules. But at the same time, I know, and I guess people also know from, especially from the film that was out in like 2021, another round by a Danish director who also won an Academy Award for the best international feature. And he mentioned that like additional inspiration for the film, apart from the book that it was kind of based on, he also took some inspiration from his own daughter, who is a Danish girl, and she told lots of things about Danish partying. So, would you tell us a bit more about legendary Danish partying drinking culture?
Yeah, I think we have the European record, I think, of young people drinking the most, which is, I mean, mixed feelings about that. But yeah, I think it's a way of, because as I said, we are a bit modest people, and I think some would say that we're a bit closed as well. I think for Danes to be open, you really have to be in their heart, and you really have to have a good relation. Because from the first meeting, I think we're just a bit, just having or like hiding behind something, or not really that open. So I think one part of it is definitely to be a bit more open, and to, I mean, I know, I think when you have a bit alcohol in the blood, you're just more open, and you just talk a bit more, just whatever comes to your mind. You don't have really any restraints and stuff like that. And I think that's also what I see a lot about when I go out with friends, that people just tend to be a bit more relaxed and a bit more, then we just talk about whatever comes to our minds, and we don't really have no kind of limits of what we can talk about. So I think some people, they definitely use it as a kind of tool to be more social in a way. And I think a lot of it is also about tradition. I think I know from the movie that the director, he got inspiration from his daughter, and especially from her studenterkørsel, which is the kind of driving around in a truck after you graduate from high school. So you get a hat on, and then we have this truck. So yeah, the class decorated with banners and balloons and flags and everything, and then you just drive around for a day to all the people's homes from the class, drinking. The only thing you do is drinking, and then you just have graduation parties for, I don't know, weeks after graduating, where you just, I mean, drink and party. So I think it's sometimes it can be a bit too much, and also like health wise, but it's also, yeah, some just social thing to do, and yeah, based on traditions as well. And I mean, it's just, it's a nice way to kind of have fun and relax, and be together in another way than just being, a bit more formal, and abiding all the unwritten rules. So yeah.
No, but yeah, that's pretty cool, and that's totally accepted in the society, which is also like, an interesting feature. And how about what is the drinking age in Denmark? When do you start that?
Yeah, so we don't have any like age where you can start drinking from. I mean, you can start drinking from your 0. We don't have this kind of legal age. You can start buying alcohol from your 16. But I think the average age of starting to drink is probably around, yeah, 14, 15, 16. So not too young, but not, I mean, sometimes it's a bit young. But I think it's I mean, we, especially because we also are independent, and we do like respect each other, we also know that if something happens, if something bad happens, there will always be help. I mean, you wouldn't just let the people or the person lie there, and I mean, you would help them. You would, kind of know what to do, even in the drunken state. So I think it's also because we kind of take care of each other, that we're allowed to drink so young, and also that we start so young.
No, what is then, like the normal leisure time for the youth? Like you finished your school, summer break ahead. Do you go for a drink or something, or you like party really hard?
I think it depends a lot. I mean, people they do in high school. It's very common that every Friday or Saturday you go out, you party, and then you have kind of Sunday, so whoa, get fresh again, and then school starts Monday, and that's very normal. And also, yeah, in the summer holiday, I mean, lots of time to drink. So,
No, yeah.
no, yeah, it's I mean, it depends, of course, but also I do think that we drink a lot, yeah. But I think sometimes it's not so much about drinking a lot. It's just about having a drink or two to kind of get in this mood where you're just a bit more yeah, talkative and yeah. So
Yeah, and
it's
it's
I think people is something to just open up a bit as well. I think
you've told me that hard drinks they're like very, very expensive. That's why people tend to go for like a bottle of Carlsberg, just simple beer or something like that.
yeah. I think yeah. It can be expensive to drink. I mean, even beer is sometimes a lot to pay for. But yeah, I think our prices are just so high. But yeah, I think sometimes it's also just for the hygge of it to just like the coziness of it to just take a beer with a friend, and then yeah, it's just I think a lot of times it's not to get drunk. Of course, we also have those hard parties where you just drink to get drunk. But I think a lot of times it's just to kind of have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. And you yourself mentioned the word hygge, the infamous Danish word hygge that cannot be translated like in one word. So maybe you can tell a bit more.
Yeah. So hygge is something we use a lot, the word, but also the meaning of it. I mean, if you have to kind of describe hygge, I think it would be because we're in the north. It's always dark, so we like to kind of cozy up in the home, maybe light a candle and sit and talk with each other, have some maybe a drink or something to this warm atmosphere where everybody is safe and yeah, and but it can also be a lot of things. I mean, I think that's kind of the traditional meaning of hygge, or if you had to translate it. But we also use the word hygge all the time. I mean, this is instead of saying this is cool or this is cozy or this is nice, then we just say this is hyggligt. So it's definitely something we use a lot, and I think it's because we are people who really like to be with family and close friends, and we have this kind of inner social circle, and then we do a lot of hyggelig thing or things with the family or with friends. And I think also coming back to kind of the work-life balance, I think because we really do like to have time off, and we really like to spend time socially and not doing too much work. So we have a lot of time, and we do prioritize spending time hyggelig, like having a cozy time and a nice time. So yeah, it's definitely something we use every day in a lot of situations,
Yeah.
and I think it can be a lot of things. It can both be like the atmosphere, and also it can be hugely to just be with friends. But I think our homes are also we do put a lot of um, effort into making our homes very nice to be in, and the right colors, a lot of kind of wood or natural materials, so that it's a nice atmosphere to be in, so that the hygge is just comes with time, because yeah, it's just something we like as well.
Oh, I didn't ask you about the story, drinking story. Do you have one? Do you
Oh,
want to share one?
I think, let me think. I mean, crazy stories, I guess parties are always some kind of crazy in one way or another. But I have a memory that's I don't think it's that crazy, but I really like to think about it. I think it was after, yeah, when we ended primary school, or like we were after ninth grade, a group of girls from my class, we went to a summer house to be for a few days, just us. And we had bought way too many beers and a lot of cheap wine, the cheap kind of wine that you can't almost drink because it's so bad. But I mean, we were, young, and we didn't know anything about that. And we just had to have a lot of alcohol for not a lot of money.
Yeah.
So on the last night, we were picked up the morning after. So the last night we had this, I don't know how many beers we had left, but too much. And then we just kind of, I think we just silently agreed on, okay, now let's just drink everything, because I mean, we can't really, I mean, we could take it back, but why would we? So we were, there, nice summer night, and everything was fine, and we were sitting there having had dinner, and then we just drank, I don't know how many cans of beer each, and this cheap wine, and it was just, it was almost disgusting. But I mean, we just drank and pretended that it was good, and yeah, I think almost all of us got uh, pretty drunk, and then we just walked around in the area, watched the sunset. So it was just, I think it's not that crazy, but it's just a very nice memory. And I remember it like it was yesterday, just the hygge about it as well. Yeah.
No, you as a Dane should know a lot about sustainability. How are things like with being sustainable in Danish philosophy as well?
Yeah, I think we're a small country, so it's sometimes easier, I think, to manage and to implement new ideas and new ways of doing things. So yeah, we definitely are sustainable. I mean, we're also a rich country, so we also consume a lot, which is kind of against the sustainability journey. But also we do take a lot of interest in sustainability, and we have Vestas, the windmill factory or producer, who they're very big, both in Denmark but also in the world. And yeah, we have a lot of wind energy in Denmark because we have all the windmills and a lot of wind as well.
Mhm.
But I think it's just, as I mentioned before, because we have some kind of surplus in our country and in our society, because I mean, the basic of life is kind of settled in Denmark. So we have time surplus and also resources to invest in sustainable solutions and to think more sustainably. So yeah, we kind of divide our trash into different sections so that we can recycle and reuse and everything. And people are very, I think, conscious about being sustainable and being green. And if you're not, it's sometimes seen as something bad, and that you're not really. I mean, being sustainable is just something you kind of have to be. Of course, it varies in degrees, and some they're extremely sustainable, and some are less so. But I think it's just, yeah, being green or being sustainable is a very big part of our lives, and also something that is very highly like valued politically. And a lot of people, when they have to vote, they also think a lot about what do the politicians say about sustainability and about a green future and everything. And sometimes seeing, I mean, or thinking about the very small impact we actually do have, because we're such a little country, it can be a bit, discouraging, because what we do doesn't really have the biggest impact on the world in total. But I think just being this country who kind of leads the way, or at least is a part of leading the way, and maybe being an inspirational country for other countries to kind of follow in our, I mean, green path, or whatever you want to call it. I think that's also about, or yeah, something that we like to do, and is part of our mission of being sustainable.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, that's like, the very diverse image of like, Danish society like, in general, because yeah, you include so many things, and yeah, being a small, like really small country compared to the others, and also preserving everything like within the society and also nature. That's cool. Like
Mm.
lots of respect, not only within the society, but also towards the, outer world. So
Yeah.
now I do have more in-depth image of like, Danish person, a true Dane in a way, let's call it. So maybe you can tell me a story that can only happen from your perspective to a true Dane if you have one.
Yeah. I mean, I yeah, I have like a small thing. It's not some huge story or anything, but I think it's very it says a lot about our society, and about how we are as people. So I mean, it's not uncommon to see the prime minister or even the royal family biking around in Copenhagen, either to go to work or to go to the supermarket to drop off the children at the school or anything. And if you see them, you can, not the royal family, but the prime minister, you can call her by the first name, say, "Hello, Mette, how are you?" And have a conversation with her without it. I mean, maybe it would be a bit weird because I don't know her personally, but I mean, nobody would say anything to it. So in that way, I think it, yeah, goes a bit back to the no hierarchy workplace as well, and just respect for each other. That we just have this kind of no hierarchy system where even the prime minister, you can call her by the first name and have a normal conversation with her without being disrespectful. So I think that's something that's a bit unique to Denmark. Being so kind of comfortable with each other or relaxed that you can do that.
And just to sum it up with an open-end question, maybe there are some things that I haven't mentioned in my questions and you want to tell about Denmark, or kind of sum it up what you think of that.
Yeah, I mean, now I've probably portrayed Denmark as some kind of perfect place, and we do have our problems, we do have our issues and everything that is challenging and that we struggle with as well. But in general, trying to promote Denmark, or seeing it from the best perspective, I think it's a nice place to live because it's, as I said in the beginning, it's so free in a way, and there are lots of things about our approach to life, to school, to work, to socializing that's just very informal. I mean, you can wear whatever you want, even when you're a professor or something, some kind of higher work. There is no kind of thinking that you have to always be presentable and you have to always be formal, and it's just a bit more kind of comfortable to be in, more hygge. We don't really have those kind of rules where you have to be presentable at all times. So I think being a Dane is about comfort as well, and just having a good time with life, enjoying it, and don't not taking it too seriously, because few Danes do that, and I think that's also part of our happiness and our just lifestyle in general.